In 2005, agents from the Nevada Gaming Control Board knocked on a door in Henderson, Nevada. Inside, they found something unprecedented in American history: a garage transformed into a counterfeiting operation, so sophisticated, so audacious, that it had been bleeding Las Vegas casinos dry for months. Spread across workbenches were tools, chemicals, and hundreds of casino chips. But these weren't stolen chips. They were something far more dangerous. They were perfect forgeries. The man standing among them was 40-year-old Erik Morikawa, a construction worker with no criminal record, no connections to organized crime, and no formal training in forgery. Yet somehow he had accomplished what criminal enterprises, seasoned con artists, and Vegas legends had never managed to do. He had cracked the code of the casino chip, the one thing casinos believed was impossible to counterfeit. This is his story, and it reveals something darker about the American dream than anyone wants to admit. The year is 2004, Las Vegas, Nevada. For decades, this city has been a monument to two competing forces: hope and desperation. Every year, millions arrive clutching dreams of fortune, and every year, the house wins. But in 2004, Las Vegas itself is losing. The construction boom that built the city's glittering facades is collapsing. Erik Morikawa, who rode that boom from obscurity to modest success, watches his business evaporate. The crews he employed are sent home. The contracts dry up. The American dream, the one that promised hard work equals prosperity, begins to feel like a lie. Morikawa is not a criminal. He's 40 years old, married, and a father. He's the kind of man who plays by the rules, who believes in honest labor, but honest labor isn't paying the bills anymore. His family is drowning in debt. Then, one afternoon, driving back from a job that took him hours outside the city, Morikawa sees something: a billboard. On it, a gleaming casino chip, high denomination, perfectly rendered, larger than life. And a thought crosses his mind. A dangerous thought. How hard would it be to make one of those? He mentions it to his crew, half as a joke, half as a fantasy. They laugh. They agree, probably not that hard. After all, they're construction workers. They work with their hands. They understand materials, precision, craftsmanship. But one person doesn't laugh. 20-year-old Jeremy Lewis, the youngest on the crew, the one with the checkered past, the one with outstanding drug and forgery warrants in California. Jeremy doesn't laugh because Jeremy sees opportunity. Within days, the joke becomes a plan. Within weeks, the plan becomes an obsession. They start researching. Casino chips are manufactured by only a handful of companies worldwide. Their process is shrouded in secrecy. The chips contain proprietary composite materials designed to have a specific weight, a specific feel, a specific sound when they click together. Security features are embedded within them: UV reactive elements, intricate designs, color patterns nearly impossible to replicate. Nearly impossible. Morikawa and Lewis begin experimenting. They try to create chips from scratch. They fail repeatedly. The composite material is too complex. They can't get the weight right. The texture is wrong. The sound is wrong. Months pass. The bills pile up. Morikawa's wife stops asking where the money will come from. She doesn't want to know. Then they have a breakthrough. Why create a chip from nothing when you can modify one that already exists? Morikawa and Lewis realize the answer has been in front of them all along. A $1 chip already contains everything they need: the base material, the weight, the feel, the sound. All they have to do is change what it represents. They develop a process. It's painstaking, meticulous, almost elegant in its simplicity. First, they heat a $1 chip in boiling water until the adhesive softens. Then, carefully, impossibly carefully, they remove the inlay, the circular label that marks the chip's denomination and casino origin. What remains is a blank canvas. Next comes the transformation. They repaint the chip, mixing colors until they achieve a match for a $100 chip. They create a new inlay by scanning an authentic one, printing it onto plastic-lined paper, and carefully gluing it in place. For the UV security features, a glowing top hat and cane visible under black light, they experiment with glow-in-the-dark paint until it's indistinguishable from the real thing. After a month of trial and error, they produce 3 perfect counterfeit $100 chips. 3 chips that should be worth $3 are now worth $300. The question is, will they work? Morikawa walks into a casino on the Strip. His heart is pounding. Security cameras track his every move. Dealers trained to spot irregularities. Watch the tables. Behind them, in darkened surveillance rooms, professional observers scrutinize every transaction through high-definition cameras. He approaches a blackjack table, places a bet with one of the counterfeit chips, plays a hand, loses intentionally, then cashes out the remaining chips at the cage. The cashier barely glances at them. The transaction is complete in seconds. Morikawa walks out of the casino $300 richer than when he walked in, minus the cost of a single dollar chip and a few hands of blackjack. It worked, and that changes everything. What would you do with a printing press for money? Because that's essentially what Morikawa and Lewis now possess, a method to transform $1 into $100 with nothing but time and patience. They begin producing chips at an industrial pace, 20 chips a day, 50 chips a day. Eventually, they're manufacturing hundreds. But cashing them in presents a problem. Walk into a casino cage with a stack of high-denomination chips you didn't win at the tables, and questions will be asked. Suspicion will be raised, so they adapt. They begin washing the chips, buying in at table games with real low-denomination chips, playing for a while to establish legitimacy, then discreetly swapping out the real chips with counterfeit ones. When they cash out, everything appears legitimate. They were seen playing. The chips came from the dealer. No alarms are raised. The money begins pouring in. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, then more. Morikawa remains cautious. He makes extravagant purchases outside the casinos. New clothes for his wife, who suddenly owns 100 pairs of shoes, lavish dinners, a better life for his family. But inside the casinos, he stays invisible. Jeremy Lewis is less careful. Lewis is 20 years old and suddenly rich beyond his wildest dreams. He books luxury suites. He gambles recklessly. He surrounds himself with women, parties, attention, and worst of all, he talks. One night, high on champagne and ego, Lewis tells one of these women about the operation. She listens carefully, and then she begins to blackmail them. The blackmail starts small, a few $1,000s here and there, but it grows. It always grows. And as the woman's demands escalate, the walls begin to close in. Greed, as they say, is the downfall of every criminal enterprise. But in Morikawa and Lewis's case, it wasn't greed alone, it was visibility. By early 2005, they've escalated from $100 chips to $500 chips. Then $1,000 chips. The margins are irresistible, but the risks multiply exponentially. Casino cashiers begin noticing inconsistencies, chips that look slightly different in the rack, colors that don't quite match under certain lighting. The casinos alert the Nevada Gaming Control Board. An investigation begins. The board backtraces the chips through surveillance footage, transaction records, and dealer interviews. The trail leads to only 2 people who've consistently cashed in high-denomination chips without corresponding table play: Jeremy Lewis and Erik Morikawa. Then comes the knock on the door. Morikawa is in his garage, training a group of Russian criminals, yes, Russian criminals, on how to manufacture the chips. Desperate for money to pay his legal fees from an earlier arrest, he's agreed to teach them the technique for a 25% cut of the profits. When the police burst in, Morikawa knows it's over. He drops to his knees, hands behind his head. Among the evidence seized are hundreds of counterfeit chips, all the tools and equipment, and detailed instructions on the manufacturing process. Morikawa and Lewis are arrested and charged with multiple felony counts. Their bail is set at $5 million each, an astronomical sum designed to keep them behind bars until trial. But here's where the story takes another turn. Morikawa's attorney negotiates, and negotiates, and negotiates. Eventually, the bail is reduced. Morikawa posts it and walks free, only to immediately return to counterfeiting to pay off his mounting debts. He's caught again, and again, his attorney works magic. In 2006, after 2 arrests, after stealing an estimated $1 million from Las Vegas casinos, Erik Morikawa pleads guilty to 6 felony counts. His sentence, 5 years of probation, community service, restitution of $36,000. He serves 10 days in jail, total. Jeremy Lewis, whose outstanding warrants keep him behind bars, is not so fortunate. Today, casino chips contain RFID technology, radio frequency identification, that tracks their movement in real time. Counterfeit chips either lack these chips entirely or contain codes that don't match casino databases. What Morikawa did is now virtually impossible. But the question remains, did he defeat Las Vegas, or did Las Vegas defeat him? Morikawa stole $1 million. He paid back $36,000. He served 10 days in jail. By any rational measure, he won. Yet he also lost everything: his business, his reputation, his freedom to ever set foot in a casino again. He became a cautionary tale, a footnote in Vegas history, a criminal whose ingenuity will forever be overshadowed by his crime. There's something deeply American about Erik Morikawa's story. A man betrayed by the promise of honest work, who turned to crime not out of wickedness, but out of desperation. A man who beat the system only to discover that beating the system comes with its own kind of prison. Las Vegas is built on a simple premise: the house always wins. But Erik Morikawa proved something that Vegas never wanted anyone to know: that the house is vulnerable, that the system can be gamed, that perfection is an illusion. He didn't defeat Las Vegas, but for a brief, glorious, terrible moment, he made them afraid. And maybe that's the closest anyone ever comes to winning. If you enjoyed this documentary, consider subscribing and checking out our other investigations into the darker corners of the world.